And we got Nafisia Collier making comments about the CBA. I don't know if she's finally coming to some realization. I don't know. So let's check this out. In the midst of all of it, former MLB executive David Sampson has claimed that the Players Association may have to accept that the WNBA owners have the advantage and an agreement will only come as a result.
What if I told you the WNBA just got hit with a reality check from a guy who's negotiated billion-dollar sports wars and doesn't care who gets offended? Yeah, this isn't some random hot take from social media. This is David Sampson, a former top dog in Major League Baseball, stepping straight into the WNBA conversation and basically saying what a lot of owners are thinking but won't say out loud. This is a man who didn't just watch the business of sports, he lived it. He ran the front office of the Miami Marlins. He sat at those high-stakes tables. He battled through brutal collective bargaining agreements with massive egos and insane money on the line. When someone like that talks about player demands and league economics, you better believe it's not casual. And what he's about to say, it's going to ruffle feathers. Check this out.
Application fees, you're getting a one-time signing bonus from your broadcast partners. All of those one-time events are not calculated in terms of viability of a business. I have been saying this for 6 months. You cannot put in expansion fees and relocation fees into the coffers for the WNBA for their money. They're one-time hits. They're one-time monetary hits.
Because of that.
That was wild, right? And here's where it gets even more serious. Because when someone with that kind of front office resume speaks, he's not guessing. He knows how billionaire owners think when the cameras are off and the boardroom doors are locked. He understands the leverage game. He understands the ego game. And now he's publicly guaranteeing something that should have every player paying attention. He's saying if the WNBA players keep pushing these current financial demands the way they are, there won't just be a tough negotiation. There could be no deal at all. Not a weak deal. Not a compromised deal. Zero. And in sports terms, that's a full lockout-level disaster. That's missed games. Lost money. Momentum killed. This isn't small talk, this is a warning shot. And the way he explains it next. It's blunt. Watch this.
Getting to the point where they're like, we're getting too close to the season now. Things are tightening up. WNBA PA President Nafisia Collier is confident the season will happen, but it won't come without compromise. Quote, well, someone's going to have to fold, aren't they? She told USA Today Sports regarding the ongoing CBA talks while promoting a partnership with Unrivaled. Talking about the WNBA CBA while doing something with the competition Unrivaled. They're just supposed to keep adding teams every single year just to be able to pay these players? We know that's not how. I mean, the NFL hasn't added a team in how many years? How many years? It's been a long... I mean, we know leagues don't just add teams. All of those one-time events are not calculated in terms of viability of business. And the more players want to tell owners to count relocation fees and expansion fees as part of a going forward revenue, the more I guarantee part of their income, the league is absolutely not going to do that. Because it is not reoccurring revenue for the league. There's going to be years where there are no expansion fees or relocation fees. In fact, most years. I don't know.
That's heavy, right? So now you've got to ask yourself, what is really going down behind those closed negotiation doors? What kind of breakdown has to be happening for a seasoned sports exec to basically predict doomsday for the league's future? This isn't just tough bargaining. This feels like a full-on power struggle. And here's where the real friction kicks in. We're talking about massive expansion fees flowing in. Big relocation money. Flashy, headline-grabbing one-time media bonuses. On the surface, it looks like there's cash everywhere. So the players are looking at that pile and saying, "Run us our share." But ownership? They're looking at the same numbers completely differently. And that disconnect. That's where things start getting savage. The way this money is being interpreted on both sides is the real battlefield. And the next clip breaks down exactly why that difference in perspective could blow this whole thing up.
I see them coming together at around like 7, something like that. I'd have to look at the numbers, but somewhere around $6.5 to $7 million on a salary cap and a little bit more salary, and that's going to be it. It's going to be a wrap at that point, okay? And in fact,
And this is where it turns into a straight-up standoff. The Players Association is digging in, no blinking, no backing down, and they want every single dollar from expansion fees, relocation checks, and those shiny media bonuses counted as ongoing league revenue when it's time to split the pie. In their eyes, money is money. If it comes into the league, it counts. Period. But right there, that demand is the brick wall. That's where negotiations stop being strategic and start getting personal. Because ownership doesn't view one-time cash injections the same as steady, repeat revenue. They see it as temporary boosts, not sustainable income. So now both sides are staring at the same pile of cash with completely different definitions of what's fair. And when neither side wants to flinch, that's when talks get icy. The next clip shows exactly how hard this line is being drawn.
these players need to hear it. Because obviously, I don't know. A lot of shit's not sinking in with this bunch. Not the sharpest tools in the shit. I'm just pointing that out. And they're going to do something. The players are going to do something radical so it looks good on social media. And then they're going to sign the deal. Tell me what you think, Pete.
That's the pressure point right there. Let me show you why this detail is blowing everything up. The players aren't asking for a small bump, they're swinging big. They want the salary cap cranked up to $9.5 million per team. The league fires back with $5.65 million. That's not a minor gap. That's almost a $4 million difference per team. Now zoom out, multiply that across all 16 squads, and you're staring at a $64 million disagreement every single year. That's not pocket change. That's franchise-altering money. And to justify going that hard, the players are pointing straight at those expansion checks rolling in from the new franchises in Golden State, Toronto, and Portland. In their minds, the league is cashing in heavy on growth, so the locker room deserves a bigger slice right now. But ownership? They're looking at those expansion fees like a one-time jackpot, not guaranteed annual income. That's the core beef. Are you paying salaries off long-term revenue, or off a temporary surge? Because if you guess wrong, you cripple the league's future. And in this next clip, you're going to hear exactly how ownership responds to that argument, and trust me, it's not friendly. That right there is the whole chessboard. It all comes down to one cold economic truth: recurring revenue versus one-time cash. That's the line in the sand. And when David Sampson echoes the same warning that Mark Cuban just dropped publicly, you know this isn't random noise. The message is simple. You can't lock in permanent salary jumps based on money that only shows up once. That $50 million expansion check from Golden State? It hit in 2024. It got absorbed into operations, infrastructure, marketing, arena costs. When the calendar flips, that check doesn't magically respawn. Same with Toronto. Same with Portland. That well dries up. And once expansion slows, there's no endless pipeline of cities writing nine-figure checks. Just look at the NFL. They haven't added a team since the Houston Texans back in 2002. That's decades without expansion cash. That's how rare this money really is. So if players permanently raise the salary baseline off temporary spikes, the math eventually breaks. And when the math breaks, the business cracks. That's why Samson is saying this thing collapses if both sides don't adjust. Not slows down. Collapses. But here's where it gets interesting. You're already starting to see subtle shifts. The tone from the union leadership is changing. The word compromise is finally being whispered. And that's not random. The calendar is ruthless. Training camps in April. Season tips in May. Deadlines create pressure. And pressure creates deals. Mark Cuban jumping in. That wasn't clickbait. That was a billionaire who's seen balance sheets up close saying the current cash flow can't support NBA-style splits. The WNBA media deal sounds massive, $2.2 billion, but stretched over 11 years, that's about $200 million annually for the entire league. Compare that to the NBA's $76 billion over the same window, roughly $6.9 billion per year. That's not emotion. That's scale. The league is growing fast, attendance is up, ratings are booming, rookies are driving culture, all facts. But growth isn't the same as arrival. Progress doesn't mean unlimited spending power. And here's the uncomfortable part nobody likes to say out loud: leverage. Owners can survive a lockout. They've absorbed losses for years. Many players can't afford months without paychecks. That's not a moral judgment. That's negotiation reality. In every major labor dispute, the side that can endure pain longer usually wins. That's the brutal pattern history keeps repeating. So here's what's most likely going to happen. As we get dangerously close to late March, you'll see dramatic statements, maybe strike threats, social media firestorms. Headlines everywhere. Fans arguing. Total chaos. And then, in the final 48 panic-filled hours, a compromise emerges from a closed room. Salary cap lands somewhere in the middle, maybe $6.5 million, maybe pushing $7 million if the union squeezes hard. A solid raise. Owners get long-term stability. And those one-time expansion fees. They won't be counted as recurring revenue. That's the hard no. When that final deal drops, remember this moment. Remember that the warning wasn't about disrespecting players. It was about sustainable math. The league is rising, no doubt. But sustainable growth takes timing, patience, and structure. Now here's my question for you. What number do you think that final salary cap lands on when the ink dries? Drop your prediction below. And if you believe the players should go all in and risk the season to force ownership's hand, break it down logically. Show me how they win that war of attrition. Because if you want real, unfiltered breakdowns like this, no fluff, just facts and fire, make sure you hit subscribe right now. This is WNBA Vibe, and we're not just watching the game, we're breaking down the business behind it.